Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Summer Sizzler Comic Con Virtual Edition. I'm your host for this particular panel, Martin Bruda, and with me today is Colin Work, Mike McAdams,
Hello.
Sharon Gauthier, Jeff Burton, and Jason Silvestri. How's everybody doing today?
Awesome.
Great.
Doing really good.
I'd like to start things off with get everybody to kind of walk around and introduce yourselves. Myself personally, but 99% of viewers have no idea who I am. But I'm one of the co-hosts of the Hey Kids Comics radio show podcast, as well as a writer and reviewer for First Comics News and Sequential Magazine. Colin!
I was one of the artists on The Adventures of Aurora Man in the beginning, and now I write and draw and publish my own book, Blackthorn, who is back there.
Perfect. How about you, Mike?
Me, I'm Michael McAdam. I'm based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I run Two Gargoyles Comics, and I've got several titles. I have Thunder, Canadian superhero. I have an LGBT superhero named Spectrum. I've got Gloaming, which is a horror comic. Twilight Detective Agency, which is a noir comic. The Magical Mr. Punch, and of course, everyone's perennial favorite weirdo, Diaper Man.
Yes, I was perusing the Diaper Man issues just the other day. Fantastic.
I'm glad you're still with us. Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. Sharon, how about you let us know a little bit about yourself?
Oh boy, a little bit. Okay. I mainly draw the webcomic Bootleg Cookie. I am also basically a background ninja for the Teamwork. I do the colors. I do some editing. I also did some work for Aurora Man. And if it's on the CCBA, I probably touched it with my grubby hands.
Perfect. How about you, Jeff?
All right, I'm the creator and writer for The Adventures of Aurora Man and everything else that falls in there. So comic book, comic strip, the audio comic, the soon-to-be YouTube comic. If it says Aurora Man, it's all mine. So.
And Jason?
Well, I'm primarily a gag cartoonist. I work for Cartoons Magazine and Scary Monsters Magazine. I do comic books and books about Saskatchewan, and I do some single-panel gag strips for a variety of publications. I do a variety of different things. I'm all over the place.
Perfect. So what we did was we posted a few questions on the internet and had some responses back. So what we've got is questions here from some of your fan base and stuff. Some of them are interesting, to say the least. So what we'll do is we'll just start off with the first one is, what inspires you to do what you're doing? You know, it's one of those cases where not very many of us are doing this as our principal job. So, you know, finding that personal time to go and do your hobby is a little bit, how should we say, a juggling of priorities and stuff. So what motivates you to keep going? Go ahead, Colin. How about you? What inspires you to keep going?
Just creating in general. I've had all these ideas of stories in my head for how many decades now. And now I'm at a place where I can actually do it, and it doesn't look like total garbage, just a little bit of garbage.
Perfect. I think we'll have to edit a few guffaws out of that one. Michael, how about you? What inspires you to keep going on this creative endeavor?
I've always had worlds in my head, fictional characters and whatnot, and I've always really just wanted to see fantasy become reality. I want my imagination to be seen, for me, but also, for other people to share it with. And I can't not do it. So I don't know if you'd call that inspiration or obsession, but it feels like something that I will always do because I want to live in those worlds in my head.
Fantastic. Sharon.
Yes. No, that is my answer. So just take everything Michael said, but replace the pronouns, because that's pretty much it. I absolutely adore drawing. If I don't draw, I don't live. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the story I draw, they're not my ideas, but when I do, I have ideas. They're either really funny or really horrible. Because I'm working on some horror comics right now.
How about you, Jeff?
For me, it's a lot of it is the medium. I love comic books. I grew up with comic books, and the opportunity to get my own spin on there and to see comic books that are made for, I guess, my tastes in reading. Just some simple, fun comic books. It's kind of what drives me.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Jason.
In the same boat. Same boat as everybody else. Can't stop now. Why stop? Yeah, I draw every single day. People that have me on Facebook that I share work with all the time, I'm always annoying them with new stuff. So, yeah.
Entertaining.
Fantastic. We do have a weirder question. What is your opinion on rubber ducks? Anybody chime right in. What's your opinion on rubber ducks?
I don't like the way they watch me. The way they watch me in the bath. I'm like, don't judge me, duck. Judgy little duck.
I like the fact that it's plural, so I'm just picturing Michael in this bath, but with just ducks. You can't see the water.
Well, if it's just you and one other duck, it's awkward, okay? Because you're staring at each other. You're like, will they, won't they? Oh.
I'm not legally allowed to answer that question. My attorney has told me that I should not speak of this, so I will listen to my attorney's advice on that one.
It's a little bit funny because there's an Aquaman rubber duck in my shower at the moment. He's got the Aquaman costume on. It's quite hilarious.
Double the buoyancy.
Yeah, rubber ducks are all good in this house. So
there you go.
I have zero stance on rubber ducks.
One of my characters, that's actually his logo. His logo is the rubber duck. And he actually throws duckarangs.
Well, being that the name of my independent comic book studio is Sitting Duck Studios, that was at one time my logo. So, I'm fine with that.
So it sounds like this question wasn't quite as random as I thought it was. Now, some folks have submitted some questions to particular creators. So this one going out to Colin. This one says, I really like that the Blackthorn Adventures is a cool idea. What gave you the idea to do that in particular?
It was just a bit of an experiment. I wanted to try doing a comic that was all horizontal, kind of the way Ryan Howe does with Daisy Blackwood. And it was just going to be just off the top of my head, drawing and writing as I was doing it. And then it became more of a story. And it's a good place for me to introduce new characters in the Blackthorn's world without trying to shoehorn them into the regular book.
Sounds great. Michael, fan here says, longtime fan of your books. So happy to see how excited you are to be a part of the CCBA now. Anyone who doesn't know, that's the Canadian Comic Book Alliance, which almost everybody here is a member of. The question is, why did you think to make Thunder half Norse god and half Canadian?
I have always wanted to tell a story about a Canadian superhero because it growing up in comics as I did with Marvel and DC, you pretty much have Los Angeles or New York, that's kind of like your two places. And I'm like, Canada is perfectly able to sustain a superhero. And I liked the idea of a superhero that had a Canadian flavor to him. Quite often in superhero books, you open on a fight. Like, it's just like the fight happens right away. What if there was a superhero that used politeness as a way to diffuse situations? And it just sort of spiraled upward from there.
Questions for you, Sharon. How does it feel to be working on so many different projects at the same time?
Overwhelming. Next question. Especially this summer, because I have no idea what's going on, but everybody wants me. Yes. And like, I recently finished some work for He's right there. Jeff! Oh my God, good start. And then Dan showed up. Can you finish Tractorland? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I close on my work, but then somebody else, yeah, can you do this? Maybe. And then, okay, remember that script from 3 months ago? I'm ready to start it. Not me! So yeah, I'm kind of busy right now.
It's always good when there's lots of work, but it's because you're scared of having no work, but then too much work is just as bad, right?
Right. I get that I'm fast, but holy jeez, I only got 2 hands.
All right, and then I got a question here for Jeff. It says here that someone has a copy of S17's Canadian Corps issue number 2, and Aurora Man is in there. Is he officially part of the team, or what's going on there?
Okay, that's awesome. Canadian Corps is one of my favorite comic books. Andrew Lawrence put that out. And when he was kickstarting the whole Canadian Corps idea, one of the perks was to appear in the comic. So this was before Aurora Man was a thing, and I pledged for that. And as things progressed along, Aurora Man became more of a thing. And he said, well, instead of just putting Jeff in there, let's actually have Aurora Man in there. And he's kind of...
a proto-Aurora Man?
Well, no, it's actually Aurora Man, because Justin was doing the art and everything, so this is actually Aurora Man in there. He's a reserve member of the team, so not on the home team, but on the backups when they need the extra help.
That sounds like shades of Legion of Substitute Heroes to me.
Oh, I didn't want to say it, but now that you mention it.
All right. And
We're in
Jason,
trouble. We need a really nice guy.
And Jason, somebody says that they found the IG comic book in a shop in Regina. Any more comics coming in that series?
It's funny you should ask. Yeah, Volume 1 was supposed to debut at the Comic-Con in Regina and in Calgary, but of course, COVID. So I have copies of Volume 1. If people are interested in getting their hands on it, they can send me a quick email. Jeff and I have put together, I put together a Aurora Man meets IG comic book that I illustrated and then showed to Jeff, and then he decided it was okay that it could exist. And so that's been colored and lettered, and it's ready to go to print. We'll probably be printing that. It'll be something that Jeff's going to help release. And then I've also just finished work on the last issue, issue 8, volume 2 of IG, The Idiot Caveman. So I'm just getting that put together as a book. So you can probably find that sometime, I would think, around Christmas or so. I should have it ready to go. So I'd really like to hold on to it to do it for another comic convention if we do get to have those again. If not, you'll find them on bookshelves here around the city. And I am currently working on securing an agent to get wider release of my stuff. So stay tuned to Facebook and stuff. If I get anything going, I'll let you all know.
Fantastic. So we got a couple more general questions here. Although this one looks like it could be for one or two of you in particular, favorite cosplay you have ever done?
My personal favorite costume I've ever worn to a Comic-Con was socially awkward artist sitting at a table trying to sell things. So that's it's been a favorite of mine.
Well, Sharon, you seemed very enthusiastic with the question, so let her rip.
My Ash cosplay when I dressed up as Ash from Evil Dead. If you got 5 minutes, I can go and get the chainsaw. Made it out of cardboard, and there's a button. It's like a laundry button thingy that I put on the side. It looks really good. I was super happy, and then I went to work in it. Beautiful.
Nice.
And
That's
of course, you can't mention cosplay with talking to Aurora Man himself, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that one's kind of a cop-out cosplay. You design a comic book character that looks like you. It kind of makes it really easy to cosplay as them. But honestly, my favorite cosplays that I've done, because I started in this whole thing as obviously a fan going to conventions, and then I kind of got into cosplay, and then I got into creating, and that's where I am now. I really loved my Starman costume. Starman being my favorite comic book character. So there's some subtle connections between Starman and Aurora Man. Some just little things, I don't know.
I heard the word I heard the word homage bandied about once.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely some heavy influences there, which is good because it's an amazing book and an awesome character. I think probably one of my favorites would be my Gandalf cosplay. That one was probably
right now.
no, not even close. No, my Gandalf beard is quite a bit bigger than my own beard, so I get a lot of a double beard action. I'm getting the gray. The gray's coming, especially after the end of this school year. But yeah, my Gandalf one, and then I don't know if I call it cosplay, but I really like to dress up as Santa Claus when the season is appropriate. So
Fine.
that one is a big one.
You could work on any comic character or any series out there. What would you love to work on? How about you, Colin?
I would say probably Batman.
Yeah.
Blackthorn's a very obvious homage, as we've coined, to Batman. So I would say that. And then I'd probably ruin it and I'd get fired.
You, sir, would not be the first.
That's true. That's very true.
How about you, Michael?
I am even right now doing a bit of a fanfic called Yellow Lantern, based on the DC universe, because I just love the idea of, well, first of all, characters based on light and color. It's just like obsessing for me. But also I liked the idea that within this universe, you could interpret colors differently than the DC canon spectrum has interpreted them. So Green Lantern and that universe would be something I would love to write in.
Fantastic. Sharon, what character comic book would you like to work on?
I would like to work officially on some Nintendo comic books, rather obviously, because I'm already also working on a fan work called the Super Mario Adventures Continued with Gabe Lerman. But I would like to do it for real, so I don't hear like, Nintendo, this is a cease and desist.
And how about you, Jeff? What's a dream project other than Starman?
Actually, I kind of sit on that same side that Colin said before. As much as I love Starman, I don't know if I'd ever want to actually try my hand at it because I just would hate to have it not be as good as it has been. Other than that, though, I really enjoy the Justice Society. So not the Justice League, but the Justice Society. Lots of those characters really connect for me and stuff. And I'd also really like to actually write a bit and tinker around with Andrew's Canadian Corps team. Just that idea, again, that book came right as I was getting into the Canadian Indies, and it hit all the notes that I wanted it to for me and stuff. So to be able to play with that a little bit would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, it sounds great. Jason, how about you? What's a dream project for you?
Well, I'm in the same boat as James. I love the Ninja Turtles universe. I love Usagi Yojimbo. I haven't really told anybody, but I got to draw Usagi in a hot rod this last week, and I mailed it off to Stan Sake. So I'm pretty stoked. He apparently follows my stuff on cartoons, which is a little nerve-wracking when you're thinking about it, because this is the guy that inspired me, one of my guys on the pedestal, and we've had conversations, and it's been a little surreal. So it's kind of wild. If I was to pick an absolute dream project that I think I'd have a lot of fun with, I'd have to say Spider-Ham, and I'm working on a pencil tryout for that right now that I'm writing. So we'll see. Marvel follows me on Instagram, which is also super nerve-wracking.
Oh, wow.
I can't do anything Marvel related without permission because they follow you, right? So I don't want that knock that, hey, man, lawyers. So, but I'm gonna send in some stuff. it's that probably my dream project would be to work either on Turtles or Spider-Ham. I don't know. I'm into the anamorphic character sort of stuff, so it's a lot of fun.
That's great. That's great. So the next the next question's a bit of a trick question.
Like the rubber ducks?
Yeah, the rubber ducks. Just trying to reword it a little bit here, because I think as independent creators, you all probably have a little bit of a laundry list of things that you would like to see to help support indie comics a little bit better. Something that you wish was available that isn't, or something that was done a little bit better to help get your independent comic books out there in front of people's eyes. So let's go in reverse order this time, since James hates being picked first. Jason, what do you think is missing as far as supporting independent creators? What would you like to see?
Well, the single biggest thing that really hurts anybody who's independent is lack of access to distribution networks or any kind of marketing budget. I mean, you can't. I have fans that have followed my stuff for a long time, and because of that, I have people. I know when I put out a book, there'll be a certain percentage that might pick it up, right? So there's a bit of an advantage that way, but it's taken like a decade to get to that point. Whereas I've gotten lucky and I've gotten in with, people that have access to distribution, and that really boosts everything. But I mean, you can't get very far unless you have distribution, and Diamond won't touch most independent books, no matter how good the book is. And because I've seen people, 100 times more talented than I am putting out books, and they're not able to get into Diamond because they're just not interested. You're a single SKU or a small publisher who has one product versus publishers with multiple products out there, right? I am finding a bit of a change in that, though, with COVID. A lot of people have gone to the online marketplace, so you're seeing a lot of stuff going to Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's also looking, if you've got graphic novels, they'll take, indie graphic novels and things like that. But, I mean, once you get into a store, though, the big issue is you got to raise the funds to get that book in that store, because they're not going to order one or two, they're going to order a bunch. But yeah, I would say marketing and distribution are the two things that hold back everybody.
Yeah, and even if you do get into Diamond and you manage to break that barrier, the number of books in that back section of that catalog, I know quite a few comic readers that don't even leaf back there, don't even look back there. So
right.
Even if you do get past that glass ceiling, there's yet another one for you to kind of surmount that way as well. How about you, Jeff? What do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously what Jason was saying is a huge thing. I think as far as, what kind of stuff could be out there to support us better, I think it's just a matter of, when the people pick up our books, I mean, it's great. That's the first step, right? They've purchased, picked up, borrowed from the library, whatever the case may be, but then share that, right? And this goes from, I mean, it's not just an independent thing. This is books, novels, music, movies, the whole 9 yards. But for some reason, it's really easy to sit down and recommend a movie or a TV show or a song or a band, but recommend an independent comic book that you love. More than just the creators always helping, push each other's stuff when we get good stuff. I would love to see some more fans get on with that kind of idea too, that, hey, these guys are out there doing their thing. They don't have that huge market reach. You become that market reach. So, if you picked up something that you really like, tell everybody else about it too.
The term gets bandied about a little bit too much these days, but basically, you want your creation to go viral. You want as many people to, I told two friends and they told two friends and so on and so on and so on, until you get, as Jason said, that fan base that looks for your work on a consistent basis.
Well, exactly. I mean, we look at, especially obviously right now with the whole pandemic situation, we talk about that spread for that kind of stuff. Well, we want that kind of spread when it comes to our independent comics. We want to, make that one sale, and from that one sale, they tell 3 other people, and 2 of those people pick it up, and those 2 people tell 3 other people, and then it just, grows out from there. That's what we want.
Yeah. How about you, Sharon? What would you like to see for support for indie comics?
There's not really much I can add to what the other two said. It's just that my situation is kind of different from everybody else's in a way because I live in Quebec. And technically, I'm not supposed to be speaking just in English right now. That's how bad it can get. And like all my comics are in English, but then I don't have the time to translate them in French. And then I live in the regions, so I struggle a lot with getting visibility and art supplies. So yeah, this would pretty much be me complaining for an hour on that subject. Sure, and complaining, what are the odds?
That's amazing. How about you, Michael? You've got quite a few books published by now. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, Jason hit it like on the head. Like the number one thing for me would be more distribution, bigger distribution, better distribution. So to add my own thing to that, I love engagement. Like, yeah, like just like Jeff said, yeah, please, if you like the book, tell others. But you know what? Tell the creator of the book.
Yes,
like,
tell me.
Part of my pitch when I sell things to people is I say, you cannot hurt my feelings. Tell me if you loved it. Tell me if you hated it. Tell me what you'd like to see more of, what you'd like to see less of. Just tell me. I'm almost crawling over the table, grabbing at people. Tell me, right? So I would love engagement on social media, face to face, whatever it is. Tell me what you think of my work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that everybody can agree that that's one of the wonderful things about Artist Alley at comic conventions is that face-to-face interaction with your fans and your readers, right?
Absolutely.
How about you, Colin? What would you like to see?
I can't really add a whole lot to that because it's pretty answered pretty well already. For me, it's a whole marketing idea. Because as someone, I write my books, I draw them, I color them, I letter them. Just having to do that marketing as well and really pushing myself out there and getting my book out there, it's one of those things that I find is probably the hardest part about making comics. It's especially when there's no shows, and like this year I wasn't going to be doing any shows at all. So to keep it out there and keep people's eyes on it, plus the constant promotion of my books, my work, and me. It's just that marketing that would be really nice to have a little extra few bucks to be able to push towards, or someone to help push that.
Right, which would be the step of the distributor, right? The distributor that's going to pick up your stuff and put it in their catalogs and get it out there. It's quite obvious that from the responses that is the number one thing is getting eyes on your material and getting it out there in front of people. I mean, it seems to be the fundamental problem that or challenge, I should say, that indie creators are facing, right?
Yeah, and I could say from having had books traditionally published that when a book gets released, if you have a marketing person, job is already taken care of. All they're doing is setting up media interviews for you, and they're putting the word out, and they're putting it out in trade publications, and they know all those steps. It's really hard for somebody who draws a book to also be the person that knows all of the marketing ins and outs to get that book into people's hands across the world, right? So that's something I sort of have noticed and learned as I've muddled about and done all these different projects, is that when you have people that are trained to do specific jobs, it's way easier for you to get that visual out there. So,
and that's exactly what every single small business person experiences. You've got your initial idea, your initial talent, whatever it can be, but then all of a sudden you become an accountant, you become a marketer, you become a tax expert, and human resources if you start with a team, and it can be a little bit overwhelming that way because that's not sort of your passion, right? So I'm sure that a carpenter feels the exact same things that you folks do as artistic creators, starting a business. How about what is your favorite part of attending Summer Sizzler Con in particular? What part of the con is your favorite? Rides, mini donuts? What tickles your fancy at the show?
I'm only 20 minutes away. And the mini donuts.
And the mini donuts.
And the mini donuts.
Michael, have you made it down to Summer Sizzler Con before?
No, this is the first year I've heard of it, actually. I live in Calgary, so I kind of feel like I don't have an excuse. Like I should have heard it because it's a neighboring convention. So what I'll say for this year is my favorite thing about the convention has been meeting all these great creators that attend that show. And you better believe, once COVID is done, I will be attending the show in person. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Sharon, did you make it out of the regions and all the way to Saskatchewan?
No, I'm poor and I live in Banjo County. But you guys are fun, if this counts.
Oh gosh, Jeff, you must have a favorite part.
I must have a favorite part. I love the atmosphere of it. The whole idea of the show, it's really grown from just something that was a kind of throwaway idea that I had that the city of Humboldt really liked, and then they just said, hey, let's put this on as like something actually bigger than what it started as.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the one in the tent. Yeah, that was great. Miserable August day in the tent.
I made a lot of sales that day, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but
That sounds like our music
no,
festival.
it's just kind of grown organically, and the fact that the community looks forward to it. Because I mean, we're a community without a comic book store, where there isn't like a huge geek culture when I started off doing Aurora Man and stuff like that, or a huge publicly geek culture. So just watching it grow, to see what it has, to see people that start emailing into the show and are wondering, are we taking registrations yet? Because I want to make sure I get a spot, because spots sometimes are a little bit limited, and it doesn't feel like work for me to organize. I get to spend a Saturday hanging out with my friends in a giant garage, basically, and we talk about making comics, and that's just a blast. I'm going to also chime in here with Justin's answer. And he says that he loves hanging out with the fellow creators and his friends, and it doesn't hurt that it's the only comic book convention that he knows that's attached to a carnival. So the kids come and go from the convention because they're going on the rides and everything like that, and everybody's just having a lot of fun that day.
Love it.
Fantastic. How about you, Jason? Other than selling comics in a tent.
Jeff doesn't give himself enough credit because, he started something from the ground floor. And I remember the first year we went out there, the excitement level of the kids, because they don't have access to comic book stores, was pretty cool. And so for me, it's seeing those kids get their hands on whatever you've created, and they're very excited, and they run away, and they're all happy to read it. I've done a couple of really small events in small towns, and you're dealing with kids that are mostly agricultural. They're living in small communities, no access. And they kind of lose their minds when they get to see something like that, because it's just so foreign to them. So for me, that's kind of exciting. And then trying to keep an eye on my back, because James is always trying to stick sticky notes to it. So, you gotta be on your toes around that young man. And just hanging out with those knuckleheads and seeing all the kids is always my favorite part. I think my absolute favorite moment at these shows was when we did the sketching duel, and James brought me a luchador mask. So we
that is cool.
If I needed a reason to go, that is it. I want the luchador mask during a drawing duel.
A couple more questions here that are geared towards someone in particular. So someone is asking, Jason, I love the 3D stories you did in Aurora Man. Any more 3D stories planned?
The 3D stuff's always a lot of fun to do. I have done, I think, 3 or 4 now. I will definitely do another one. I think I'd like to do a 3D ink comic book yet. So I'm sure there will be more coming down the road. They're such a hoot to do. They're a lot of work because you've got to sit there and you're trying to do the stereoscopic 3D effect on your own. So it's like moving this layer 0.01, this layer until you get the effect to happen. You got to wear the glasses. So it's a little involved, but they're a lot of fun. Like, I love seeing the reaction from the kids. Like when they put the comic book on the table and you put the glasses out and they go, "What is this?" You go, put on the glasses, and they get that look of just shock of like, whoa, what is this magic in front of you? So it's always a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, if you're doing things for the reaction, yeah, there'll definitely be more 3D comic books. I actually was looking at the cool metallic stuff that Jeff had on his last little blast of books there. So I'm always looking for something really fun and interesting to do. So we'll definitely do more.
Should be fun. Jeff, someone here is asking about the Aurora Man podcast. When's the next episode hitting?
Ooh, excellent. We've got the next episode. Oh, look at that. Michael's got the book, 3D glasses in there. Yeah, I love that 3D story. That was great. Podcast, though. I have the next episode ready to go mostly. I have a couple parts that I'm just waiting for the audio to come in. The nice thing with this is every time I do an episode, I get a little bit better with the skills and stuff, so it gets a little bit faster to make and stuff. So it's just a matter of getting those last few pieces in and having the time to sit down and compile it, which is kind of nice that my schedule is getting a little bit less intense right now. So I have a little more time to sit there and work. So very soon, I'm hoping before summer is out, we should have the new episode ready to go.
Sounds great. There's a follow-up question to that one, though. The person that wrote that has a little section here. How come you haven't featured Martin Bruda in your Aurora Man podcast?
Gee, I
Well,
wouldn't have said that.
we're just waiting for the right opportunity for that to happen, be it the right character for Marty to voice or the right situation for that to come across.
A question for Sharon here. Apparently in the Adventures of Aurora Man issue that featured Aurora Ronan,
Yeah.
Jeff has you listed as the creator of the character. So what
Yes, he did.
inspired you, and how did you come up with Aurora Ronan?
I just like the Edo period. That's pretty much it. I just felt like drawing an Aurora Ronan, basically. Surprisingly enough, people would think I was inspired by Yuseki Yojimbo, but it's actually from Ninja Scroll, where they had like really, 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 really good animation. But if you're under 18, don't Google that, okay? Thank you. Like, part of the element designs of Aurora Ronan is from different characters in that anime. Don't Google it. And but it's very good. That's where
I have another question for the whole group, which I find really interesting. I really want to know the answer. What is the furthest away that someone has purchased one of your comics? So, Jason, let's start with you. What feedback have you gotten from some far-off land of someone who has read some of your stuff?
Oh, I feel like I'm cheating because I've got a bit of an advantage with some of the work I've done and the publishers I've had access to. Cartoons magazine's available globally, so I've gotten emails from England. In fact, actually, I've got a advertising job I just picked up this week from England because of Cartoons magazine. So I've had emails come from all over the place. Yeah, when we did the Saskatchewan book, the first one, I was getting emails from people in Asia who their cousin had sent them a copy of the book because they were feeling homesick or what have you, and they would write in and say how wonderful it was to see a little piece of home back from wherever they were. So I've kind of got it's kind of cheating asking me, but I do love it. I love seeing the kids all over the place get it. The Demolition Deer Motor Moose strip seems to be pretty popular, especially with kids. They seem to like the whole idea of animals driving hot rods. It seems to tickle their fancies. So I do love that about it. And it's a lot of fun. I'm always glad to see an email come from wherever it's coming from. So
That's great. That's great. How about you, Jeff? What's the furthest someone has gotten their hands on something?
I've shipped pretty much across the globe now. I've had orders for Aurora Man that have gone to Australia, to Japan, Russia, continental Europe, all around in there. It's just kind of exploded off and gone all over the place.
Sounds fantastic. Sharon, how about you? Are you getting any kind of response to some of your webtoons and stuff from around the globe? Or
I do get some responses. I just don't really know where they all come from. I do know I have some fans in the UK. I have one from Australia somewhere. And that's as far as I know. I would need to check my metrics, and I don't do that. I'm just glad to have people like my stuff.
That's great. Michael, how about you?
Definitely Australia, and Italy was one that surprised me because the person that wrote me, English was not their first language, so it was pretty cool that they made the effort to read my stuff. Those are the only two I'm for sure about. But thanks to the internet, of course, and Mixology and other distribution networks like that, we do have a far greater reach than our Canadian radius of conventions, that we go to. So that's kind of awesome.
That's great. How about you, Colin? Have you?
Australia is definitely the farthest out. Besides that, nowhere really else, to be honest, as far as I know.
So I got another question here. Do you think as a kid that the job you're doing now is what you were going to be doing, or do you think you're going to do something else? Start with
Yes.
Colin this time. Colin, what do you think? Did you always have a lifelong goal to be a comic creator?
Yeah, pretty much since I was about 13 or so. And you start out just with crude little drawings and stuff. But I remember having a Dr. Zeus book, the All About Me book. I don't know if anyone else had one of those. And then it said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I have it somewhere around the house, and it said, I want to be Superman or a carpenter. And I've done one. I'm not saying which one, but yeah, I've pretty much always wanted to make comics and draw and all that kind of stuff.
Fantastic. How about you? I honestly get the feeling this is going to be one of those ones where everyone answers the same way, that the answer is yes. But just in case, Michael, how about you?
It was not my first thing, actually. I always loved cartoons and superheroes, and I always wanted to live in that world. But the first job I remember wanting to have at the age of 6 was flight attendant. And that's what I became.
Nailed it.
But with my D&D group in my teens, we had one artist, and of course we all were always pitching ideas for comics, to that artist. And I never got over that obsession with, no, I want to see things come to life. I want to see. So about the age of 14, I was like, no, I want to see this happen. And it never occurred to me until like my 30s that I could actually be the one to make it happen. So it really came in through the side door. But once I started, oh boy, it's never going to stop. It's permanent.
That's fantastic. How about you, Sharon?
Yes. I literally started drawing officially when I was 3 years and 2 days old. Mom still has the picture in a wallet. And I didn't stop, and I'm not stopping until I'm dead. And then again, they're going to hear scratching noises in my coffin. Okay? How's that finishing a book?
Well, if you don't want to give a definitive answer, that's fine.
I'll think about it and I'll come back to you.
Okay. How about you, Jeff?
Honestly, this probably wasn't something that I would have thought of as a kid. As a kid, I love the medium. I love the characters, everything. I knew it was always going to be part of my life, but never as me being the one providing it. So kind of like Michael said, though, once I put my foot in the water, it was put the pedal down, and we're going. Like this is what it's going to be. And I've been asked, how long do you think you'll write Aurora Man? And I'm just like, when it stops being fun, then I'll stop doing it.
That's great. How about you, Jason?
Well, I think for me, the big moment was I saw Charles Schultz on television saying that you could be a cartoonist. And I'd always been a fan of the newspaper strips and things like that. And then I was doodling little goofy, stupid cartoons and making people laugh. And so when I saw that I could make somebody laugh, and it was that medium I could do it with, I sort of gravitated to that really young, probably 11 or 12. But there was a brief period where I almost went into pro wrestling, and so I'm glad that I didn't go that route. Although I came pretty close. so I took kind of a winding path at it. I went into graphics, but yeah, no, I've been drawing probably since I was 11 or 12. So I still look like I draw like I'm an 11-year-old. So it's pretty cool. It's progress.
Pro wrestling, that's a bit of a tangent for sure. Well, we got what looks like probably our last question. Afterwards, once we get through that, I'd like to just go through everybody so you can pitch something, get out there and let us know what's coming up next. But this question is, who would be your dream collaborator on a project? Who would you really, really like to do some work with on a project? And you're not allowed to say Sharon.
Because it's already happened, probably.
It's already happened. We'll start off with Michael this time. Michael, who'd you like to collaborate with out there?
The first name that just jumped into my head when you said that was Craig Russell. His style, I would love to do a fantasy or fairy story with him. I have one I have a script for one, and I'm like, oh man, what would that look like with you? And I would love to get his insight and input onto the fairy world and all of that stuff. There's just something about his art that is enticing in a dreamlike way. It just pulls you in, and you're like, what's reality anymore? I don't know. So P. Craig Russell.
All right. Sharon, how about you? Who'd you like to work with that you haven't already?
I want to work with Michael.
Ooh!
He's fun. Because other than that, I pretty much work with everybody, so.
That's fantastic. How about you, Jeff? I think out of the entire crew here, you're probably the one that has so many different people contributing and giving you things and stuff. Is there somebody that hasn't yet that you really would like to work with?
Yeah, well, you nailed it there. Everybody on this screen, with the exception of Michael, I've worked with in some capacity. Not to say that won't happen yet, Michael. We'll get there. But for me, I could go into like the big names and stuff like that, but Sean Daly as an artist for Samurai Grandpa, Ogres, watercolor painting, and comic books. So someday I will hopefully be able to work with him on an Aurora Ronin project. The Ronin for me really seems like in Sean's style of watercolor will be just phenomenal. Sharon, now you kind of get an idea where my obsession of watercolor for Ronin comes from. After buying the Samurai Grandpa Kickstarter, and then the individual issues, and then the softcover trade paperback. I just don't get tired of it. I love his work. I follow him on his social medias, and every time he puts something out, I'm just like, yeah, Aurora Ronin. That's the style right there. It just, I don't know. It's something about it, the watercolor painting. So he is kind of like my pinnacle of somebody I really want to work with right now, because I've had the opportunity of working with so many amazing people already. Everybody on the screen right now. So it really is, it's hard to say, oh, who would you like to work with? It's like, nah, give me time. I'll work with them.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've read some of his stuff being published by Source Point Press. It's really good, and I met him at more than one convention. Really nice fellow. So there's no doubt that you could make that collaboration happen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Jason, who'd you like to work with that you haven't yet?
I think I would approach it from a bit of a different angle. I like different writers. I'm open to working with whoever's looking for an artist to draw things, especially if it's all ages type stuff. But I would love to sit in a room across a table from Stan Sakai, Sergio Aragones, people of that level. I just think I could learn so much as a cartoonist. I mean, they're all masters of the craft. Kevin Eastman, things like that. And I know it's a cheesy answer, but that's where I would probably go with it. I'd like to just hang out with them for a while, have a drink, and just draw. They get together and they do these cool things, and I get to see the results. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall, or just go to do that once or twice. if I could choose a writer to work with, that's tougher because I'd want to work with somebody who would take me outside of my comfort zone and get me to do something I haven't done before. So I might go with somebody doing something darker, something more a different age category than I currently draw for. I usually do all ages stuff. So, yeah, it's a tough one for me to say off the top of my head. I really can't think of anybody's name. Mike Mignola, I'd love to play in the Mignola-verse. That'd be amazing. But that's because I'm into, monsters and fairy tales and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be open to collaborate with anybody looking to collaborate. I'm pretty easy going. That's
great. How about you, Colin? Who'd you like to work with? Obviously, I'm no longer on that list.
From an artist standpoint, I'd really like to work with Andrew Lawrence. He's a hell of a writer. If he's going to be getting back into comics. And also kind of shooting for the stars, a guy like Scott Snyder. I've always enjoyed his Batman work. From a writer standpoint, I'm thinking a little closer to home. Ryan Howe. I would love to write something for Ryan, which almost happened last year, but time crunches before Calgary made it, so it just didn't happen. So in the future, I'd love to work with Ryan. I just love his style.
Fantastic. So yeah, we do have to begin to wind this down a little bit. So just let me know what's coming out, what's new, what's next. Colin, how about you, sir?
Just kind of slowly picking away at colors of Blackthorn number 4, starting writing Blackthorn number 5. I already have ideas for the next storyline. I have to do part 2 of Blackthorn Adventures. Now it's become a thing. And I've started the preliminary work on another project that's not Blackthorn related or Aurora Man related or anything. It's with a different writer, which will hopefully see the light of day by the end of the year, early next year kind of idea.
Fantastic. Michael, what's new from 2 Gargoyle Comics? What's coming out?
My current obsession is what's coming up next is the magical Mr. Punch. It's top hats and tight pants, the rock and roll wizard. And I'm telling it from 2 different standpoints, the adult Mr. Punch and when he first awakens to magic as a young person. So I'm kind of telling the story from 2 different time periods. And hopefully it'll have a little something for everyone in there. It's got British mages. It's got, evil robots. It's got the secrets of magic. And it's got talking winged gorillas. So really, it's like Tarzan meets Constantine meets me.
Sold. Do you have my credit card on file? Because I need a copy.
Excellent.
So Sharon, why do you want to work with Michael?
All right, Sharon. What's new? What's latest? What's coming out for you soon?
Okay. I'm working on finishing Tractor Lad with Dan Collins. If all goes well, knock on wood, should be done for the fall. At the end of the summer, I should start on the next Super Mario Adventures Continued with Gabe Lerman. I'm currently coloring the start of the next issue of Auric, which is Auric 6, and we're taking pre-orders right now for Legion Strike, which is very fun. And if you want to pre-order it, you have to go on the Auric Facebook page and contact Davis and Andrew. See, I barely stumbled on that. Yeah.
Jeff, what's up? What's next?
Okay, well, we're still plugging on issue 7 that just came out during the pandemic here, so getting copies of those and the variant covers out there. Also talking with Creative Kids about our donation to them, so we've done quite well with that, and they're very happy with us. I have the next issue, or the next episode of the podcast is lining up. Also have the YouTube comic project that has yet to be unveiled. That's also waiting very closely in the wings for its launch. Somebody said something about a website at some point in time, so that's almost ready to go. And what else? Oh, Jason and I are comic strips every 2 weeks. So next week is the next installment of the Stories from the Stew Aurora Man comic strip. And what else could I possibly do? Oh, I'm lettering issue number 8 right now, the main story for that. as Derek sends me the colored art, I'm doing the letters, and all the short stories from James and Sharon are done for the in-between parts of that book. And issue number 9, the pencil and ink work is happening now. So, or the pencils are done, the ink work is happening for issue number 9. So next year, the 5th anniversary of Aurora Man is hopefully going to have some big stuff.
Sounds
Awesome.
great. Sounds great. How about you, Jason? What's coming up?
Oh boy. Let's see. Cartoons Magazine is available every 2 months. The new issue drops this Wednesday. You can find it at Walmart's, Chapters, Indigo, wherever magazines and comic books are sold. Most local comic shops carry it. You can order through Diamond as well. I'm also in Scary Monsters magazine. That next issue comes out in 2 months. It's a quarterly magazine, and it's available wherever magazines are sold, including Chapters, Indigo, and places like that. I have a new book coming out later on this summer called Hey Buddy, Do You Want to Buy an Eyeball? And it's about all the weird, wacky advertising stuff you used to be able to get with magazines and comic books. And that is coming up from an American publisher. They haven't launched it as of yet, but it will be out shortly. So that'll be all over my social media. I have a line of T-shirts coming out for cartoons from my characters for that magazine strip. So I'll be launching a website for that shortly. Jeff and I are doing the Aurora Man strips. I've got all the strips for, I think, the next year and a bit, all done and in the can. So those are going to be just releasing as they are needed. And I'm also doing a bunch of daily strips for a bunch of different publications. And I've also got a new graphic novel out, which I was not able to debut anywhere. Jason in New York City, I collected all of the original web comics that sort of started this whole journey. So it's over 200 pages. It's available through Studio Comics website. It will be coming to Amazon shortly as well. I'm working on getting the Kindle book put together. And
Awesome.
then I also have the next volume of Egg coming out later on this year. And finally, another book. Oh my God, Marvel published that. Will be released probably in time for the fall. Coming out from another American publisher. Same guys that did the book. Oh my God, they published that, which Carson and I released last year. So it'll be another, probably 300-page book, all about the weird and wacky stuff that Marvel Comics published that is either a little too on the edge, racially, culturally, socially, and we sort of like to poke a little bit of a fun eye at that, and a little bit of parody of it as well. So I got a few things on the go.
So lazy. Could you bring your game up a little? You're embarrassing.
I didn't even mention the new comic book that I'm working on right now.
Oh, Lord.
So Jeff is already
Backfire.
doing the covers. I'm actually working on a 21-issue comic book called Samurai War Pigs. It's in Sharon's favorite period of Japan, and it's a story about 4 brothers dealing with, the breakup of the family, dealing with loss, and dealing with the chaos of losing their entire province. So,
And I'm
I've
loving
been working for a while.
everything that I've seen of it. So
Nice.
Yeah,
That sounds fantastic. For
it should be a lot of
myself,
fun.
For myself, the Hey Kids Comics radio show is as we transition out of the radio studio and into more into this digital medium. You folks might anticipate a few invites for our Zoom recordings. It's a little hard to get to Peterborough to be in the radio station, but as we get more virtual, it's a little easier to invite folks. So anticipate some invites in your emails. HeyKidsComics.ca. Other than that, folks, thank you so much for attending, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of the Summer Sizzler Comic-Con, and let's get back into actually meeting everybody in person as soon as possible.
Amen.
right on.
Thank you, everybody.